Alright, what's up, guys? Today I'm going to be telling you about the 6 books that I read in the month of April. Quick disclaimer though, this is April 23rd, I believe. I'm recording this on April 23rd, so I have about a week of April left. So some of these books I haven't quite finished, but I'm about to finish them. I'm going to finish them in the next week, but I have to record this now because I'm moving and everything and I won't be able to record, yada yada. Alright, first book I'll talk about was an absolute banger. This Small Gods by Terry Pratchett was one of my new all-time favorite books. This was just absolutely amazing. I actually made a dedicated review for this. That's how much I liked it, because I just had to get my thoughts out. And this was just utterly amazing. Like, the social commentary in here, without being too heavy-handed, without being too in your face, was just like written phenomenally. And I really like that it was written in somewhat of like a humorous tone. I really enjoy that about the Discworld book, and I'm getting into the series, so I'm assuming this goes on into the series. But that's what I'm really liking so far, that it is pretty light-hearted and doesn't take itself too seriously, which allows it to make some like really deep points without being too heavy-handed. So I really enjoyed this book. The main characters are very likable. The chemistry between the two main characters is just written really, really well. And it's a really quick read. It's like 300 pages, but the words are big. It's like double spaced. Amazing read. Definitely recommend it. The next book I read was Breach of Peace by Daniel B. Green. This book was pretty solid for a debut novella. I've been a fan of Daniel Green for a couple years now, and seeing him put this out, I had to buy it immediately. I actually pre-ordered it like a month in advance. So I was really excited when this came in, and I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't perfect. There were definitely things to be fixed. There were, you can tell that it was his first novella. But having said that, this was a pretty solid outing. The story was pretty compelling. I liked the main characters. I wish I had more of it because it was so short. So I wish I had more of like plot, I guess, because this does really follow like some small events. Well, the things that happen are kind of like crazy and big to the story, but it follows like one or two main events and wraps up pretty quickly, and that's just the nature of a novella. So I would have liked it to be a little bit longer, but honestly, this was a pretty good outing, solid read. Nothing too crazy. I wouldn't like rave about it or anything, but this was pretty good. I enjoyed it, and I can't wait to read his next one. Oh, all right, this next book, Neuromaster by William Gibson. This was just an absolute slog to get through. I'm not gonna lie to you. I had such high hopes for this. I heard that the story was really cool, that the setting was written really well, and I guess in a way it was. But the plot was just so convoluted for me, and the writing style I'm not sure if I would describe it as like flowery or just like vague. Like there's some moments where I just honestly lost track of what was happening, because it was very choppy. We would jump from one scene to the next without much explanation, and maybe that's on me for not understanding that as a reader, but personally I didn't enjoy this at all. I guess the main character was kind of likable. New York noises once again, I apologize. But yeah, this story was just pretty much a slog to get through. I don't really recommend this. I guess if you're into classic sci-fi, you would be into this, because that's what this is. Maybe classic sci-fi just isn't for me, because the style of writing and I guess the plot didn't really click for me. But if you're into this, let me know why you did like this and why you think maybe I didn't like it, and maybe some recommendations on other sci-fi that I would like. Alright, this next one I absolutely loved was The Lord of the Rings. I didn't read the whole trilogy. I read The Fellowship of the Ring. This edition comes with all 3 books in one. And I really enjoyed the story. I had first watched the movie series before I read this, and then I was pretty interested in it, so I said, why not? What the hell? I'll pick it up. And I was pretty impressed with The Fellowship of the Ring. Obviously, it's a story that I know already, so I kind of like I knew what was happening, but I really liked the way that it was written. One thing, oh my god. So when I first started reading this, The poems and the songs I couldn't really get into because I'm just not much of a poems guy. I've never been able to get into poems. I don't know how to read poetry, and it just never really clicks for me, and having to sit there and decipher what they're saying just never really, like, I just never really meshed well with poems. But halfway through this, I realized that there's a lot of that in here because, you know, Tolkien really loves to flesh out his world and give songs and poems and talk about this tree and that or whatever, and describe the landscape in like a myriad of ways. So I looked up like a quick little beginner's guide to reading poems and songs, I guess. I started reading them out loud, and I got to enjoy them a little bit more, and it really added something to the story. So I'm really glad that I did that, because I think my enjoyment level of that first book really like jumped up to another level once I started doing that. And then this coming month in May, I'm looking forward to finishing the Lord of the Rings series. I'm gonna finish the Two Towers, and then hopefully also the Return of the King. So I'm really looking forward to that. I can't wait to tell you guys all about that, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna record. It'll probably come out in June. I'm gonna make a full series review as a beginner reader to the Lord of the Rings. I want to give you guys my first thoughts. Alright, and now these last 3 books I haven't quite finished yet, but I'm either like 50 to 100 pages away, so I'm definitely going to finish within the next week. And one is an audiobook that I have like an hour left, so I'll definitely finish that in like the coming days. So the first is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This is actually a reread. I had read this my freshman fall, so last year, about like probably like a year and a half ago, and I really enjoyed it back then, and I don't know why, I just felt like picking it up again. So I am reading this once again, and I have like 50 pages left. I love this book. I love the way that it was written. I love the message that it tells. I love like exploring the relationship between Frankenstein and his monster, and that like obviously the whole thing where like Frankenstein's monster isn't the real monster, Frankenstein is the monster, you know, like I just really love this novel. There's so much to unpack in this, and I'm really glad that I took a class in it. Well, I didn't take a class on the book, but I read it for a class, so we got to talk about it. And I'm really glad that I did that, because now on my second reread, I can look out for the things that we talked about in class and get a whole lot more from it. So this has been a really great read. This is one of my all-time favorite classics, and definitely recommend that you read this. All right, and the last physical book that I read, was The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, and I am loving this so far. I have like 100 pages left-ish, and I'm loving this so far. I really like the writing style. I love how it jumps back and forth between the past and the present, giving you a lot of insights into what's happening now, and giving you some more detail and insights into the character of Offred. There is just so much depth and complexity in this, and I even started annotating this book. I stopped about like a quarter the way through, just because I was so into the book that I didn't want to have to stop every couple pages to put a tab or something. So I just stopped doing that because I really wanted to keep reading. And this book is just absolutely amazing. Like the social commentary in here on like feminism and sexism and like power structures and just like things that probably still go over my head. I probably missed so much in this. I'm actually even going into the Spark Notes every couple chapters to scroll through and see if I missed anything, and to just get like a second opinion on like the themes and the things that are going on in the story. And it's really added a lot to my experience of reading this, so I'm really glad that I am doing that. And it's probably something that I'll do for other classics that I read, because sometimes it is a little hard to comprehend, and sometimes you do miss some of the themes. You do miss like 1 or 2 moments that add a lot of depth to the story, even though they might not be like key moments. There are a couple things in there that you might gloss over, that once you read about it in the Spark Notes, really brings, like, it sheds a new light to the book. So I think Spark Notes as a tool, I know we all use it to like skip readings in school, but as a complementary tool to reading the actual book, I think it's been a great addition to my reading experience. And then the last book that I'm reading, I'm listening to on audiobook. I did a free trial of Audible and I canceled it, but I have this book left because the Audible is pretty expensive and I'm a broke college student. So I started listening to what's that called? So I started listening to Born a Crime by Trevor Noah, And Trevor Noah is someone that I had known before I heard about this book, because I, like, a couple years ago I was really into stand-up comedy, and I'm still pretty into it now. I love stand-up comedy, and so I really like Trevor Noah's comedy, and I watched him on like SNL and his show, I forgot, I think it's maybe The Daily Show. So I've been a fan of Trevor Noah before, and when I heard about his book, I was really interested, and it's been on my radar for about a year now. I'm not too sure when it came out actually, but I'm pretty sure it's been about a year that it's been on my radar. I've been looking forward to reading this. So when I saw that it was on Audible, I picked it up and I've been listening to it, and just like, this man's story is insane. Like, it's heartbreaking, it's inspiring, it's like, there's funny moments, there's sad moments, there's just everything you can imagine in this book. And wow, it's just like a really powerful story, and I am thoroughly enjoying listening to it. And even on Audible, I highly recommend the audiobook because it is narrated by Trevor Noah himself. So he adds all of the accents. When he's like talking as if he were his mom or an aunt or something, he speaks in a voice. He says some of the dialogue that isn't in English, he says it in the language, which I think really adds a lot to the story. It's just like a tiny little thing that really immerses you into his story. And I'm just loving the experience of reading this so far. I listen to it either on the train or when I'm, like cooking or something every once in a while. So I'm really loving this book. I highly recommend it. One of the best well, I haven't read that many memoirs. I think I've read like 2 or 3, but this one is definitely up there. It's very high quality and I'm loving it so far. All right, and those are all the 7 books that I have read or am about to finish reading in April. I really enjoyed this month of reading. There was a good like mix of books in there. There was a memoir, there were some classics, there was some fantasy, some sci-fi, even though I didn't like the sci-fi. There was a great mix of books in there, and just a great month of reading, honestly. So let me know what you guys think about all the books that I read. Let me know some books that you think I should read based on these. And thank you guys for sticking around. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the like button, comment down below, and subscribe. Thank you for sticking to the end of the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks, guys.